If you've spent the last few evenings scrolling through endless trumpet listings, watching YouTube demos, and still feel that knot of doubt about whether you're about to pick an instrument that will actually grow with you, this review is here to cut through the noise. I've been in the same spot, a mix of excitement about stepping up to a pro-level horn and the fear of blowing a lot of money on something that ends up feeling off after a few months. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'm going to walk through the real-world experience of the Bach 190 Stradivarius Professional BB trumpet, point out where it shines, where it might trip you up, and help you decide if it belongs in your case or on the shelf. First, let's talk about the kind of player who usually eyes a Bach Stradivarius. The brand's name carries a legacy that stretches back decades, and the 190 series is marketed as a step up from student models without jumping straight into the custom shop price range. If you've been playing a beginner or intermediate instrument for a couple of years, you're probably hitting the point where you want more projection, better intonation across the register, and a response that doesn't make you fight for every note. That's exactly the niche the 190 aims to fill. Conversely, if you're a seasoned professional who already owns a handcrafted custom or a high-end rotary valve trumpet, the incremental benefits of the 190 may not justify the cost, and you might be better off saving for a truly bespoke instrument. Now, what does the 190 actually give you? The body is clear lacquered brass, which isn't just a visual choice. The lacquer protects the metal from oxidation while still allowing the instrument to breathe. In my own testing, the lacquer gave the trumpet a subtle, warm sheen that didn't dull the tonal character, even after several hours of playing in a rehearsal hall. The Leadpipe is a Stradivarius No. 25, a design Bach claims smooths the airflow and helps the instrument settle quickly after a long practice session. Practically speaking, I noticed the first few notes after a break were more stable than on my older student trumpet, where the first few seconds can feel a bit tight. That stability translates into less time spent adjusting your embouchure before a gig or an audition. The hand-hammered No. 43 bell is another hallmark. A larger bell typically adds breadth and helps the trumpet cut through ensembles, especially in big band settings. The hand-hammering process, while labor-intensive, tends to create subtle variations that give each instrument a unique voice. On the 190, the bell's shape produced a rich low mid-range that blended nicely with saxophones in a combo, while still delivering a bright edge on high notes. When I tried it in a marching band rehearsal, the trumpet's projection was noticeable without sounding harsh, a balance that can be tricky to achieve on cheaper models. Monel valves are the final big piece of the puzzle. Monel, an alloy of nickel and copper, is tougher than standard brass and resists corrosion from moisture, a common issue for musicians who store their instruments in humid bags. In day-to-day use, the valves on the 190 felt smoother than the brass valves I'm used to on entry-level trumpets. The action was light yet firm, and the valves didn't stick even after a sweaty 2-hour gig. That reliability is a practical win for anyone who travels between gigs, rehearsals, and practice rooms. So far the positives line up nicely for a player looking for a reliable workhorse that also gives a step up in tone. But there are a few trade-offs worth flagging before you click add to cart. The first is weight. Because the instrument uses a solid brass body with a larger bell, the 190 sits a bit heavier than a typical student trumpet. If you have shoulder pain or you're planning to march for long periods, you might find the added mass tiring after the first half of a set. That's not a flaw per se, it's just a characteristic of a pro-grade horn, but it's something to keep in mind. Second, the price point lands in a middle ground that can feel ambiguous. It's noticeably higher than a standard intermediate model, yet far below the price of a fully custom Stradivarius. For some, that in-between price can be a red flag if you're not absolutely sure you'll get the tonal benefits you expect. My advice is to try one in a store first, if possible, and to compare it side by side with a lower-priced alternative. The difference is most evident in dynamic control and how the instrument responds when you pull back on the volume. The 190 maintains its pitch and timbre better than many cheaper options. Another practical concern is the lacquer finish. While it protects against tarnish, some players who prefer to break in their horn by gradually polishing away the lacquer to expose raw brass may find the clear coat a bit restrictive. If you have a strong personal aesthetic that involves a raw brass look, you'll either have to live with the